Hi, I'm Remy Renzullo, an interior decorator, and today we're here at Castle Howard in North Yorkshire. Castle Howard has been the home of the Howard family for the last 300 years, and they've lived in the house continuously since it was first built in 1701. I've been very lucky for the last few years to get to work on decorating various aspects of the house. By far the most dramatic and distinguishing architectural feature of Castle Howard is the Great Hall, which is crowned with the first dome ever been put into a domestic building in England. And it's really Vanbrugh's triumph in terms of the interiors of the house. The Great Hall is an extraordinary space and by far the most architecturally defining element of the house. I remember the first time that I came here and walked into the room and was overwhelmed by the beauty of it, but also incredibly intimidated by the thought of contributing in any capacity to this extraordinary house with this incredible architecture everywhere. One of my favorite rooms at Castle Howard is the Crimson Dining Room, which is the state dining room, so to speak, of the house. And it forms part of the enfilade of staterooms that are on the southwest facade of the house. I love dining rooms. I think that they can have such a warmth to them, and I think that they're just wonderful sort of backdrops for great dinners. They're also one of my favorite rooms to decorate because, you know, I love fabric and pattern and texture, and certainly a dining room really allows one to do that. Something I really love is one really gets a sense of time and history sort of visibly written on the walls. And I think nowhere is that more evident than somewhere like the Crimson Dining Room, where you have this wonderful crimson damask on the walls. And because the collection is always changing, the pictures are always being moved and rehung, you really get a sense of the visible history of the room in here. And you know, I love the fading of the damask in some places and versus where you can still see the original color, where for a long time there was a specific painting hanging there. And because the collection's always changing and being rotated and rehung, you really see the sort of the history and on the fabric of the walls of this room. There's an amazing picture collection at Castle Howard, and some of my favorite pictures in the house are the scenes of Venice that occupy the walls of the dining room. And this is just an incredible painting by Bellotto. At night, when this room is lit by candle and filled with people, it's just got a wonderful atmosphere in it. And that's something that, you know, is really important to me when I go to decorate a room. It's not just the way that the room looks, but the feeling that it conveys. Now we're up in the attics of the house, which is an area that I spend a lot of time in. It's pretty amazing. This used to be a bedroom wing of the house when it was first built, and over time has just sort of evolved and may one day be put back into a bedroom wing, but for the moment it houses storage for overflow of the collection. It's an area of the house that I spend a lot of time in and is quite important because when I'm working with the family to put rooms together here, I often come up to have a look around and see what there is that I might want to use, whether there are lots of amazing etchings and mezzotints and small paintings that are great for bedrooms, or to have a look at furniture. It's a pretty great place to get to spend time. The furniture selection process is huge for me in terms of decorating, and so I just have so much fun spending hours up here, you know, looking behind, looking at all the paintings, looking at the furniture and sort of figuring out what things can I use. And I suppose that's a really amazing part of working on a house like Castle Howard, is that I don't really have to go out and find that much furniture. There's so much here already that's sort of waiting for a new lease on life. Over the last year, one of the most exciting projects that I've been working on in conjunction with the house is a special collaboration with Watts of Westminster, the fabric and wallpaper company, in a project we've been doing to reproduce some of the textile documents and wallpapers that are in the Castle Howard archive. This bedroom, which by far is my favorite in the house, is called Archbishop's, and it has this extraordinary what we call the goose wallpaper. This wallpaper is from the Anglo-Japanese movement, and this was installed in about 1884 by Rosalind, the 9th Countess of Carlisle. And she and her husband, George, who was the 9th Earl, were extraordinary patrons of the arts of their time. Rosalind embarked on sort of the largest redecoration of the house since its inception, and this was one of the rooms which she worked on and still exists in the form in which she had originally decorated it. And this is something that we've worked really closely with Watts on over the past year to reproduce. And it's been really fun to look at the trials of the wallpaper throughout the development process and compare them to the original. And something in particular that we tried to focus on was capturing the wallpaper in its present form, as opposed to how it might have looked when it was first installed. Because obviously, having been here for 150 years, it's acquired a bit of a patina. And in fact, I think that's, for me, what makes it what makes it quite beautiful. And so we wanted the paper that we're reproducing to have a little bit of that sort of manufactured patina, if you will. One of the great features of the house are these amazing 19th century Polonais, or Polish, beds. They appear throughout the house in a number of different bedrooms. This one had quite a famous moment on TV. It was dressed in its present form for the original filming of Bridgerton Revisited. And while it's lovely in its present form, it was made for the filming, and I feel that given the beauty of the wallpaper in this room and the amazing carpet and furniture, that it is time for a little bit of an update to the fabric on it. And so that's something that we've just had a meeting this week about, actually, looking at fabric options for this bed. And so this will be sort of rehung and redressed and new trim applied sort of throughout this spring. In the Admiral's bedroom, this is a room I'm really excited about and quite proud of that I spent the last couple of months working on. One of the really sort of defining features of it is this amazing fabric on the bed and curtains. And this is, again, a document that we reproduced from the Castle Howard archive with Watts. And as part of a sort of celebration of the collection, we decided we wanted to use it in this room. It was really exciting to get to work on it because the proportions of it are amazing. It's such a dramatic bedroom. We spent a lot of time thinking about sort of what form the decoration would take. But this was a sort of complete redecoration of the entire space. The room has this wonderful paneling, and we wanted it to have this early feeling, kind of when the house was first built in the beginning of the 18th century. The idea for the color on the walls was, I had said, sort of wanted it to feel almost like that blue that you see in a Vermeer painting. I was really fortunate to work with Alec Cobb, who's an extraordinary decorator, and he immediately knew exactly the color or the shade of blue for this room, and it just totally transformed it. And then I love rush matting so much, and Felicity Irons, who is based in Norfolk, is the best woman in the UK that makes it. And she came up here and installed this over the course of a week, and it just suddenly changed the entire room. And I think in conjunction with the fabric and the furniture, it completely evokes the feeling that we were hoping for, which is of this very early 18th century room. And so it's a space that I'm just so proud of the transformation of it. So now we're at the beginning of the east wing of the house, which is the family's private wing and not open to the public. And this is where a lot of my work initially was focused. I just wanted to point out the ceilings, which have actually been recently restored and I think are just extraordinary. And this was all done by William Morris in the latter portion of the 19th century when the 9th Earl and Countess of Carlisle took up residence in the house. Here we are in the East Wing dining room, and this is the family's private dining room in the house, adjacent to the kitchen. And this was quite a fun room to get to work on. Originally the walls were really sort of light, bright blue that I thought was out of sync with the use of the room at night, and this sort of slightly dusty terracotta color is something of a signature of mine, and really probably my favorite color. And it just felt really right for the room. To see this lit up with candles at night, it has a really wonderful warm glow, and it looks great with the paintings in here as well. But really, one of the most exciting things in the room is the cabinet behind me. I'm quite a fan of porcelain and ceramics, and in particular, my absolute favorite are Chelsea Hans Sloane ceramics, which were made about 1760, 1770, named after Hans Sloane, who was an amazing botanist and started the Chelsea Physic Garden. And I had no idea when I came to Castle Howard for the first time that they have one of the best collections of Hans Sloane Chelsea china that I had ever seen. I love it because it's so beautiful and the hand-painted botanicals are wonderful, but it doesn't feel too precious or formal. And that was sort of the idea with the room as well. And then it was really exciting to watch the amazing decorators working on this room who re-gilded everything, and just it's the skill with which they do it is extraordinary, and it's so fun to watch. In a place of sort of incomparable beauty, it's hard to focus on one specific area, but for me, the Temple of the Four Winds might be the most iconic, extraordinary part of Castle Howard. This was designed by Vanbrugh, who was largely responsible for the house. He was commissioned to design this by the third Earl of Carlisle, who had commissioned him to design the house. And Carlisle very much wanted there to be a relationship between the house and the landscape and the building. The Temple of the Four Winds was sort of conceived of as a banqueting pavilion, as a folly, essentially, and it's not hard to imagine it being sort of amazing for that purpose. Certainly the floors are extraordinary, and it's actually a motif that appears in other places throughout the house. This is a type of inlay that's Byzantine Roman called kosmati, and it's often distinguished by the use of porphyry. And it's, for me, probably my favorite sort of type of inlay. And there's a fireplace in the house with the same motif, and as I say, it reappears throughout. But what I love about this specific place and its location is just it has the most extraordinary view from outside, and it's a nice way to kind of take in the beauty of the place. There are a lot of moments in being here and working here where I'm still sort of overwhelmed by the beauty of the place, and it never really gets old to look at. And often I feel at a loss for words in order to really describe it properly. But luckily, Horace Walpole put it best upon visiting here when he said, "I have seen gigantic places, but never a sublime one."